I'm going to now start, right?
Yeah. Okay, we're good.
6 paths, if we think of the trochanter, which I have wrapped here, and this is the big knob here, wrapped in blue to give you the orientation. And I take that handle and I draw that forward in what would be called extension mode. The pelvis would turn this way, and the lever is here, the fulcrum is here. The force is going through the hip joint, so the transmission is through. So I'm going to try to organize this movement so when this goes forward, then everything down the line responds. So the back is not a lever here, but actually is transmitting the force. You'll also see that it's transmitting through the sacroiliac joints and gradually going up the spine, lengthening these muscles and drawing up all of these spreading vertebrae on these levers, bringing the clavicle back. So that motion would be what we call the first path. The second corresponding path would be what would be called the flexion variety, although we call it the path 2. So if the handle is turned this way, then the force is going up through the pelvic floor this way into the lumbars, opening here, and the transmission again is going through the lower lumbar sacral joints, going into the spine, and now the levers are moving the spine up, and you can see the system leaving. In which case, the back ribs are spreading. And this is what we would have if we turned it into a movement. So I will now do it in a standing variety rather than a lying variety. Standing beautifully a moment ago. We'll put it down. So if I were doing that movement from here, I would be trochanter oriented, keep pelvic floor stabilized so center of gravity doesn't move forward. Now I'm going up in my path 1. The problem here is if I start here and this engages here, this becomes a lever. So I will do this and show you I'm now levering from my back as well. Well, this is okay for now, as long as I don't put weight on it. I'm probably all right. But actually, the force is here. This is extending, and now the force is going up, and I'm controlling the center of gravity. So here's my center of gravity, pelvic floor, which you can't see, transmitting force and keeping me on line. So the net effect of this path would be to spread my clavicles, and the shoulder blades would come back. The mistakes that people make are these. And you see it a lot in yoga postures that are not done properly. I'll give you an example. Rather than pushing from the feet like this to go up, the body is only going up from the lower back, which is a bad form of training because you're telling these lumbars to be your levers. So now let's get to the big movements. And these are the ones that are the major drivers of human functional motion, because now that we've got those 2 in place, we're going to take those forces and work them in the true spiralic fashion, which means that since the bones are all organized in the tissue to move spiralically, where we get our best and most efficient motion transmission, watch from here. So if I'm a body worker, what I want to do when somebody simply does a movement like this, as if they were simply beginning to turns or rocking or any activity that you can think of in which you are moving right and left on the leg, here I am doing it, then I take the trochanter, because there's the lever again, watch, wind up, come back, which opens this up in here. Now, if this doesn't go back, the spine will go forward. And this is what I see in a lot of people. The body does that. That is a wrong move, rather than this. So if I get my hands here and join, and here's the hands-on work, and I say, okay, so let's start here, ASIS, trochanter, get these going. Okay? If I can, open this tissue up, squeeze it so it moves with me. Then next step, put the hand back here to the sacroiliac joint, lumbosacral, and control it there. Watch what happens on this whole side. It starts expanding those ribs. There's the tissue. Look at this, opening the oblique muscle here, the big obliquus externus, Okay, big muscle opens because that's a big driver, needs to wind up. This brings this shoulder back. The clavicle opens up here. The space opens up here, solving another problem called the potential thoracic outlet contractions coming forward. Everything is now in line for that path. And I can now do all kinds of interesting body work, trochanter, ASIS, lumbosacral, and here's the most important thing. While I'm doing this work, I'm saying to the client every once in a while, do you feel a connection here? Now, if they say no, I know that the myelin, that the brain is not yet wrapping the movement. If they say, yes, I'm beginning to feel it, well, tell me where it's going. And they say, well, oh, the hip is going back. And therefore, the brain is now wrapping myelin sheath. If I don't ask that question, I will get the movement. But the brain is not doing the learning enough yet. Because it must register, it must wire together before it can fire together. So every once in a while I'll say, do you know where your hip is going? Do you feel a connection between my two hands? Notice each time I go further away, I have to ask, do you feel that connection? If they say, no, I don't feel it, that's where I have to work. I have to work until they say, yes, I'm beginning to see this is moving, somewhere like that, back and turning. And then I say, do you feel this connection? Oh, yeah, I feel my ribs moving. I know now that something's happening in the brain. That's the verification. Otherwise, I'm doing wonderful body work. They're getting a very good effect, but we haven't completed the cycle because we want the brain. Remember that nervous system, brain, was designed to create a part of itself to monitor activity in order to correct things. So the brain has grown a part of itself called, the monitoring neocortical system that says, oh, notice what I'm doing so I can now make a correction. Okay, that's part of our self-brain development. So I have activated that, now I give the person the movement. Now let's go to the corresponding movement, because every wind-up, look, he's winding up to throw, or he's walking or running, or he's swimming. In this case, every reciprocal motion of winding up must have a second motion. So let's follow that through. As he goes through from trochanter, most people do this when they go forward. Watch, that one. Well, when you do that, you're making these muscles contract. We don't want that one. We want this one. This path, watch this, look, it doesn't follow, versus this path, watch the spine follow it. Look at it, perfectly in alignment. It's not doing that, it's doing that. Look at the line here, and this is turning this way, the trochanter is turning this way, even the scapular is following with the ribs this way, look at that way, coming down, there it goes. This is staying in line, and watch what I can do now. Not only can I control this here, I can now go to the thoracics, and every time he does that path, which we call the path 4, look, these turn. If this does not turn, watch what will happen. He'll pull forward again like that. And there's the proof. If you take your hands, and again remember, now I ask, do you feel a connection here? If they say no, I work in closer until we get it. I touch until they say yes, yes. Otherwise, I do nice movements, still good, wonderful, no problema. But every time they say I get the connection, they're saying yes, there it is. And there's the path, look how beautiful, and look at the alignment. No torques. Perfect stream of energy is driving the system. So we could now combine those two by going 3, coming around, and watch now, I grab the vertebrae and turn them the other way, and I complete the cycle with the thoracics. Now we go into the 4, there's the spiral. The spiral going up this way, the spiral going up this way. The spiral here, the spiral here. So now let's say we continue the journey. Seminar 1, trochanter, going through all of this stuff, which is an entire universe, right? We won't even worry about this. We're going to have a seminar on this, because that force is going down to the leg. Seminar 1, 1, 2, 3 into T12. Seminar 2, start here, retrace it, always connect the dots, go back, connect thoracics. Go up to thoracics, into where? Let's follow it up. Trochanter, all the way up through thoracics. Guess what? We hit C6, C7, and T6. These are important joints, and watch how they move with those three. These must turn. Look at that. And this is opening up this way so that the head can remain, you can rotate around it, and I'm going to connect these dots in with the sacroiliac joint, with the ASIS, with the lower rib gate, with the trochanter. Now we've got the spine working all the way up through. And both ways again. Now there's also, okay, so since we have all of that, we might as well add the laterals. In the lateral, which is an important movement because it's always a contributing movement, let's say it's constantly involved in helping all the other moves, especially the 3 and 4. Watch what happens in the lateral movement, which would be this, right? And this would be the motions of the laterals, governed again from trochanter, lumbosacroiliac, thoracics, right, and scapula, head and neck. So in this case, the 5 would go this way. The driving force would bring these ribs in and lift the other side, and there it goes up. Watch this. Here goes the other side of these ribs up. Watch the spine. Here are the levers. Notice that I have my hand on the levers or on the ribs, eventually connecting them in all the way to the C7. For the 6, which is often left out, the movement goes this way, the driver is this way, and this side lifts, and now I've got the vertical. And that's going to happen. And here we have 6, 5 and 6, 5 and 6. Remember, here's the driver. If you stop doing this driver, you start using these as your major levers, which on the side are not going to bother you, but an standing would be this. And now you see I'm using my lumbar as a lever, and that's what I don't want to do.
Okay.
And that's just to get that. Now we're going to, that's seminar 1, spine seminar 2. Spine seminar 3 is going to integrate the head, neck, cervical into this so that the head can move freely. That's a whole world. And then it's going to attach down to the shoulders. So we've got head, neck, shoulder. We've got to now start to work with how this shoulder blade is going to move in relation to the clavicle, in relation to the vertebrae, in all 6 paths. Sagittal 1 and 2, rotational 3 and 4, lateral 5 and 6. And now we've got to put this complex, which is running on these ribs, following the spine, has got to get in tune and in line with the whole thing so that the scapula is constantly moving. Whatever I do in the spine, the scapula is going. Whether I turn, whether I'm coming around, whether I'm going backwards, whether I'm going up, the scapula must follow the spine. So this is a whole system that's called integrated. The following, this is a precision instrument following its precision instructions and specifications. Every time there's a deviation and one part is not connected with the other, damage, trouble, some pain, arthritis, sooner or later. Bingo.